What's up, Summoners? King Blair here. Today, for Top 5 Tuesday, we're going to be talking about the top 5 changes I would like to see be implemented into Epic 7 to make this great game already so much better. So, if you like the video and want to see more, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So, the top 5 changes. So, this can be anything from fixing old game modes to incorporating new things that we can do, right? So there's a wide range of things, and there's definitely a lot of systems that I didn't get to that I do want to see the change, but these are the top 5. So if I missed one, make sure to write down in the description which one you would like to have see in the future to be implemented in the game. All right, enough about that. Let's start with the beginning. First, we're going to do a quick honorable mention, which is going to be more skins. So I know this is something they're starting to do, and they're starting to do more seasonal ones. We see things like the Charles one for Halloween, and we see the Lena one for Christmas. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but I still feel like it doesn't feel as special because it's one thing in like the full month, right? When we remember like the summer one, we had things like the Montmorency skin and the Clarissa skin that just never made it into the game, right? Which is like they could have easily have implemented that as a reward, and we would have all been all for it. So I don't know why they're hesitant to make new skins. I don't know if it's just because it takes a very long animation time, or it just had a lot of redrawing time, and they don't think it's worth the money to do that. But I would like to see that. So that's an honorable mention because the reason why is because it's going to be in part for the other ones. So first, let's start with number 5, guilds. So right now for guilds, there isn't as much motivation for guilds to try extremely hard. What do I mean by that? When we look at things like the world boss, the rewards here, while they are very, very nice, there is no motivation for you to be one of the top 10, 20, 30, 40, even like top 100 guilds. Because if you do that, you get nothing extra than you just already getting triple SS, right? So there is no motivation to try as hard for this world boss, and there's almost no communication, which just feels very shallow, and it doesn't add that like competitive aspect to guilds to be excited about it to try to get better scores. This also translates over to things like Guild Wars. So for Guild Wars, when we look at the Guild Wars ranking, the highest reward is at the top 20%. Top 20%. That is a lot of guilds. That is over 1,000 guilds that essentially are getting 5 times rewards. And while that is great, and I love that we can all get rewards, there is zero motivation right now for these guilds to go higher. You can say, oh yes, the top 100 guilds get these flags, right? Which they are kind of cool, and it's a step in the right direction, but it doesn't really do much for the players. If a player from Life decides they want to leave Life, they can't show that they participated in one of the highest guilds for that season. There is nothing to show for it. There's no special reward. Once you get to this X5, there's really not that much you get, and it's just it feels kind of shallow, and it takes away a lot of the excitement of Guild Wars because it's like, why should you try to go super duper hard in Guild Wars besides that you enjoy the game, right? So that's the change I want to see because I definitely feel like there could be a lot more added to guilds, and there could be, and we'll talk about that in a second. So now let's move on to number 4. This one is kind of a mix as well because they kind of fall in the same category. And I talked about this before and it still hasn't happened, so I'm going to be mentioning it again. Automon Tower and Hall of Trials. Automon Tower is a snooze fest. Uh, when it first came out, it was exciting, it was good. I thought what they needed to do was just improve the rewards rather than just making it easy. Because it was a very, very hard PvE content. And it was very, very exciting. And the fact that it could rotate and be challenging every single month, trying to figure out different strategies, is really, really cool. And some of the stages are very well designed and would have been really, really hard the old way that the tower was. But due to backlash on the difficulty and the rewards for the difficulty, they dumbed it down a lot and killed a game mode that could have been really, really good. So I think it's something that like I would really, really like to see some improvements to Automon Tower. It is way too easy right now. It's just kind of like get your rewards and leave, right? So there's nothing there to that. And kind of hinging off of that is going to be something like Raid. Raid is such a snooze fest. Raid is actually a chore. It actually feels like a chore. At this point, I've beaten this bosses 1 million times. There is no reason to do the normal difficulty one because it's like these rewards are are terrible. The only reason you want to do it is for the chance to get something like a Molagora or something like some of the charms that they give, right? So it's like it's something you have to do because you can still get some stuff from it. You can get some galaxy bookmarks, you can get some coins. So it's still nice to do normal labby, but it's just so useless. And the same thing with the hard difficulty. It's like I've beaten these bosses every single month. Why do I have to beat them again and again and again and again and again every single month? And they have made improvements to make this better, but there hasn't been any changes. There hasn't been any new bosses. There hasn't been anything exciting, and it just feels like a chore that you do every single month. Once you get past that initial like difficulty stage of like, wow, that was really cool, it just becomes a chore. And I don't think it should be that way. So both these, they just feel like chores. Both Raid and Ottoman Tower just feel like chores. There's no excitement to them, no difficulty, and it's just very disappointing. And I want these to be revamped to maybe have different bosses. You know, maybe rotate bosses out, change a little bit of the mechanics, kind of like the Hall of Trials, so you can try different bosses out. I think that would be a really good switch for Raid. And for Ottoman Tower, having a hard option where maybe there is less floors, but they are more challenging and they can rotate like they do with the regular tower, right? So that way we have to strategize every single month. All right, what are we gonna do this month, right? So I think for those, that's the way that you would change it. Right now, on to the number 3. So for number 3, we have the Hall of Trials. Again, Hall of Trials, it just feels like they had such a good idea and then they just kind of butchered it, right? So some of the things I think are really, really cool. I think the inclusion of exclusive equipments in this Hall of Trials was amazing. I thought that was really, really smart. I think these artifacts and units like Xeno being included in here is also really, really cool. I think it's amazing. Now, why do I have a problem with it? The best reward you get, again, is top 10%. There is no motivation above top 10%. There is not even that big of a reward difference from top 10% to higher. Like, yes, to the top 100, that's where you start getting. But most players aren't going to see that. For the most part, you're only seeing between these two, which are pretty achievable for most late game players, right? So the rewards, it's like, it just feels kind of eh. And then this practice week, it's like, I wonder how many people actually practice it to be like, oh, I'm ready, because you can just do it over and over again on the actual week. So I don't get the point of having a rest period in this. The bosses, I think, are super unique. I think they give a lot of creativity, and I think the currency is really, really cool. They just need, again, it looks like they have a problem with ranking and with like giving rewards for actually doing it and motivating players to want to do it. One of the things that I thought was really cool, and I think it's a step in the right direction, but could be included more into that, is things like the Dagger Shikar missions, because they did include some of the Hall of Trials, but they're just point based, right? So I think they could do more with this and expand it, and it'd be really, really cool rather than just doing points, do a little bit more. So I thought that was a really, really good change, and I think it's getting a lot better for that one, but I would still like to see it changed a little bit. All right, now on to number 2 and number 1. So number 2 is something that is what I really want to see, and I hope that they're planning it. And I remember in one of the streams they said they were really thinking about it, and that is going to be co-op mode, right? So co-op mode, what does that sound like? So my idea of what I
Not
want that
many can
co-op
be
mode to
trusted with
be
a
is
task
something
like
like
this.
Expedition, right?
Lucky
So
we've
Expedition,
got
I
you.
think, was a really good addition, and I think there's a lot of cool things in Expedition. And the new Dagger Shikar and the idea that you have with your guild is really, really nice, right? So there's a lot of really cool stuff. People are still trying or figuring out new teams for expeditions. So I think that's also really, really cool. And they even update their bosses, which they haven't done for anything else. So I think, again, that's also really, really well done. But what I mean by the co-op mode is something that you just don't fight together, but rather have to coordinate together. So maybe they can have one of these bosses or like something similar to this where there's a boss that you can get and you invite friends, maybe 2 or 3, and you fight the boss together as a party and have to strategize on who's bringing the healers, who's bringing the damage, who's bringing the debuffers, right? And things like that to have more strategy in the game and fight harder bosses where you can get different things. And what the rewards could be, it could be things like charms or skins or just like this. It could be like expeditions, just reforge mats, but it's like a weekly thing that's a lot harder so that we can coordinate. Or they could even, instead of putting it something like the expedition, as we mentioned before, for guilds, they already have this slot right here that if you go to the guild hall and you go to the world boss, they have this area, like they're gonna include another world boss, and what I would like to have seen for the co-op mode for the world boss is something similar where you set different themes and you set them, and maybe the boss has different body parts that you have to work together to defeat and kind of go through it and get certain, like you can get, I don't know what type of current, like not recurrency, but like some rewards, like charms would be amazing. Um, Random pieces of gears would be really, really cool. Covenant summons, or even they could do something where over time, as you play, you have a chance to get the coveted Moonlight Elemental summons that they have right here that they haven't even touched, right? So I think, or even just Elemental summons periods, I think there's so much potential that they could do with the co-op mode and really, really do some really unique stuff to it. Right, now on to the number one. So this is one that it's just, it really hurts me because I'm a big player,
All right,
and that is going to
let's
be
do this.
RTA rewards. So if we look at the RTA rewards, this was for 2 seasons ago, right? This was for season one. Season two was basically the same thing. It was the Athletica. RTA is probably the best game mode that I think is my favorite game mode. And for a lot of high level players, this is what we love, right? It's all about RTA. And this is kind of like the end game of Epic 7 is RTA. But the rewards are just so saddening. Like the difference of the rewards, it's like, yes, the frame is amazing. I think that is really, really cool. This is really, really cool. This is really, really cool, right? But if you're gold, you're getting 2,000 conquest points that you can use to get charms and progress in the game better. And while, yes, you don't get the skin, it's like, it's just cosmetics versus like, what, like, and the rewards are the same for Masters too, all the way to Legend. Theoretically, the only difference between all of these is the frame. So it's like there is zero motivation for players to try it unless they really enjoy the game. There is almost, because once you get to champion, you're not gonna get to legend, right? Getting to legend is almost impossible, right? It's for a select few number of players. Champion is very achievable, so it's like, what's the motivation once you get to champion? Just snooze. What's it? What's Why try to get better? Why try to improve if you're just gonna essentially the max rewards you're gonna get is this champion frame regardless of how hard you try, unless you're like super good and like super strong and have the best units and everything and can maybe get to legend, right? And even then, it's like, okay, at gold, I still get conquest points. And what about like with Athletica? Let's say I don't have the skin. That's useless. So what can they do? I think what would be really cool is for them to include some form of shop, similar to like the coin shop, but not
What
quite,
do you
right? So
think?
what could it have? So I'm gonna use this for an example. But what I would like to see is something like maybe this, like a Molagora weekly, or maybe even monthly. You know, if they don't want people to be too stressed about it, where you can get points for the fights that you do. You can get some points, kind of like Arena. You can get monthly Moragora. You can get charms. That's the big one. There's almost no way to get charms right now besides regular arena, and most people hate regular arena, right? So not a lot of people like regular arena. At least RTA gives you another option for the people that don't like regular arena, like myself. We can do something like the RTA, get some coins, and get charms that way, right? So I think that could be really cool, having weekly charms that you can buy from the shop by just doing your RTA fights, maybe even some energy, and of course having some like 3-star skins, as we mentioned with number 6, having some skins for 3 or 4 stars be part of the shop, so you get it by participating in RTA rather than as a season reward, right? So we can still have the season reward, but then for the MO 4 stars who are probably never going to get a skin, you can now get maybe like a Kali skin for that season, and maybe the 3 stars can also get a skin or two, right? So it's like, I think that could be such a good system, and it'd be so simple to implement, and it wouldn't break the game. It's not something that's like you have to do RTA. It's still something that's optional, but gives you some nicer cosmetics, gives you a little bit of energy on the side, gives you some charms that are hard to come by, and of course you would cap all of this so it's not just like a clear advantage for people who just play all day RTA. But yeah, that's what I think. That's the changes I would love to see in Epic 7. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Comment down below if I missed one, and that's all I got. I will see y'all next time.